Trimaran fans. This is Joe Farinaccio here from smalltrimarans.com, and I'm talking today for a few minutes with Jim Brown. Jim has recently republished one of his classic books here, a book from the 70s entitled The Case for the Cruising Trimaran. And Jim is very gracious to give us a few minutes today just to talk a little bit about this book. I had a few questions I wanted to ask him, and Jim, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thank you, and hail to all you outraged devotees.
This is great. Now, I have already contacted everybody that I know that's on my email list, and most of those guys are small trimaran guys. But I have found, Jim, that most people who are multi-hull fans, they love reading material like you have in this book, and I think it just applies even to people of smaller boats. I think there's so much in here to have fun with, and it's just, you know, I sure enjoyed reading this.
Well, thanks. Some of the information applies to little boats as well, particularly those who are used for, let's call it beach camping expeditions, even seafaring expeditions. There's been a lot done in little boats that really rivals what's done in big boats. The only real restriction in the little ones is that you can't carry enough supplies and fresh water in order to really go across oceans. But seafaring is alongshore as well as offshore. So I hope that some of the information in this old book, which still seems to be largely valid for those in the larger cruising craft, will also be of benefit to people that are sailing small boats.
Well, that's great. You know, the section that I found particularly interesting, I thought that the folks at smalltrimarans.com would really be interested in is you have a section in here on rescue and self-rescue, and there's some, you know, these great photos, one right after another, of one gentleman uprighting his 23-foot tremolino, and he's using a particular technique in order to upright the boat that is turned over, and he's kind of by himself. And do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, in my opinion, the prospect of unassisted self-rescue from multi-hull capsize has been largely unrealized. We really hoped that it would be possible for some procedure or device to be developed that would make it possible to rewrite a capsized vessel without outside assistance. And it has been done in those photographs, and particularly in the Goujon 32 catamaran, which was really intended to be capsized and recovered quickly. Jan and Meade Goujon worked out a marvelous system, but it required a very special boat in order for it to operate. And the funny thing about multi-hull capsize is that nowadays nobody talks about it much, which I think is a great mistake, because there's definitely something that can be done about capsize before one takes off, and if it is done, it relieves the skipper of the pressure of offshore responsibility. At least there's always a next step, something that he's got in mind that can be utilized, put into play if indeed his boat were to capsize. And the prospect of capsize, we've learned since the book was written. Incidentally, I think it was first published in 1980 or 81. What we've learned in many years since is that capsize is not a big deal. That is, the prospect of sinking in a ballasted vessel is so much more threatening, but we've all lived with it for centuries. We assume, when we go to sea in a steel ship, for instance, that there's the possibility of it and its crew simply disappearing from the face of the earth. But that doesn't happen with modern multi-hulls. There's something much less final, and that is the prospect of survival on board after capsize. And even in little boats, we have some wonderful examples of guys shoving off in tiny little multi-hulls and ending up upside down in really rather threatening conditions. And it turns out that the boat saves them. And the prospect of them surviving a sinking in similar conditions, and it turns out that one is just about as likely as the other. That is, from all of the evidence, and of course we do not have it tabulated, but there's just no doubt that the prospect of capsize in a multi-hull is particularly a trimaran, is certainly no greater than the prospect of sinking in a monohull of about the same size and in the same conditions.